And it seems like everything that's put out on mainstream financial media is just cover for whatever's going on. It's not, they're not telling you the true story. It's not what's really going on below the surface.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, live on the beach in Sayulita, Mexico, just one day ahead of the pre-party for SilverFest II. Coming up in the Hopin software, you can click the link below to find out all that good information. One of the stars of SilverFest II, as you can see here, is Rob Kientz. And Rob's already pretty famous for the brilliant analysis that he's done, running multiple circles around Wall Street, but not stopping there, but continuing on around the globe, exposing the London Bullion Market Association, as well as the fraud they're running over in the Perth Mint and refuse to even. Rob, would it be safe to say that you made the Perth Mint your bitch?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think their CEO is working there anymore. So
yeah, well, actually, perhaps we can get into it. I don't know if you're aware, it looks like Richard Hayes is quitting in April.
Yeah, I think his tenure is ending, and it was convenient that that ended right after, you know, we exposed what the Perth Mint was doing with their clients' metal.
You probably knew with Auditor Rob hot on his trails, it might be wise to flee town now, as it seems like many of the criminals involved with shorting silver through paper contracts, they don't say it publicly, but maybe a good place to start. I mean, here we are 4 months after that Basel III date. And while the price is still getting destroyed, while the CFTC looks the other way every day, we have seen that short position come down significantly. At the same time, you tell me if you agree, it feels to me as if something about this financial geopolitical bubble is about to pop. Here, Cliff High talking about October 28th. How cool would that be if the whole thing popped on the first day of SilverFest, giving us plenty to discuss? The whole how to bust the COMEX panel might be moot by the time it's 11 a.m. Central. But Rob, what do you say to any of that? Where do we stand now?
Yeah, I think there have been so many developments in the silver market in particular, precious metals, but the silver market over the last few months, it's been pretty phenomenal. You've seen a lot of exposure about what's going on. We've seen huge drawdowns on the COMEX. I think they're taking metals off the market, which I predicted they would do earlier this year. So I think we're closer to the end game of what's going on in terms of the derivatives markets. And then, like you alluded to, you see all this stuff is going on geopolitically, China taking center stage. You see the issues with the current administration is having with its NATO partners. It seems like everything American edifice is unraveling at the moment.
Yeah, it sure does, Rob. Do you see this making it to the end of the year?
I don't know if we're going to make it to the end of the year. We had a roundtable last week asking that very question. Michael, who's our channel moderator, came on, and Financial Fitness joined us, and we talked about this. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know when the thing's going to pop. I never make those calls because you just never know. But it just seems like we're a lot closer to it than we were before.
I mean, do you think Jeff Curry will still be, you know, that being a, what do they call him?
Claiming copper is more conductive than silver,
of a trust that hedges in the wrong direction illegally and then sells and hammers the heck out of COMEX futures in the silver market? Do you think that will still be going on while the CFTC looks the other way?
Oh, it's entirely possible.
Or it could be that we're nearing the break point. Rob, something I don't think we've had a chance to talk about yet. I've been suggesting that it seemed to me as if the tapering actually had begun and they were just using their normal legal language tricks to essentially say they weren't doing it while they were doing it. Example, we see the Democrats who Joe Biden had pumped up the stock market talking about a $3.5 trillion spending plan. Now the discussion is to take that down to 1.5 to 2 trillion. We'll see if the number comes down for there because there's not even an agreement yet. And that's a tapering. That was already priced in. And if now that money is not going to be stolen, printed, and spent on fraudulent purposes, at least in Wall Street parlance, you could say the Treasury is tapering. And then along with that, we've seen the yields in the Treasury market spike up. And since really the Fed or their criminal partners were the only ones foolish enough to take a long-term approach to that Ponzi scheme, well, fields are spiking. Who is selling or who's not buying? Could be the Fed has been tapering as well and just not saying anything. Rob, how do you see all of that fitting together?
I don't believe anything the Treasury or the Fed puts out. I think they're probably doing shadow deals or shadow operations in the market, just like the Exchange Stabilization Fund has been doing. Dave Kranzler's been on your program talking about that for years, it seems like. Yeah, I don't believe any of the publicly reported stuff. I mean, we've done enough audits. Take the Perk Mint, for example, how they blatantly lied on Kitco about what they're doing with their customers' metal. We've caught the Fed talking about interfering in the market and meeting minutes dating back to like the 60s and 70s. And it seems like everything that's put out on mainstream financial media is just cover for whatever's going on. It's not, they're not telling you the true story. It's not what's really going on below the surface. So at this point, I always look at the data, always look at what they're saying, but it's pretty easy to pick apart and figure out that it's not reality of what's actually going on.
Yeah, although fortunately, Rob, what does seem to be reality is this beach here in Mexico. I know you came and took a taste earlier this year. Are you going to be joining us in Mexico in person? Are you going to wait to Silver Spring Break in Sayulita? What are you thinking for SilverFest? Where's the great Rob Kientz going to be? Are you going to be part of it? Signing autographs in person, virtual? How is that situation looking?
So I'm going to be joining SilverFest virtually this year. I've been on the road for about a year and a half, so I've got to take a little bit of a break.
You can get massages over there at Habibi Spa, Rob, which is right on the beach. You could even surf into the darn thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I haven't been to Sayulita before. I need to visit. I hear from you, it's a great little town. Although we can't see it all, you got your fingers over the camera, Chris. You got to pull your fingers back.
Why did you not say that earlier? Hopefully that's a better view of really the proper environment to study silver. In fact, Rob, you know who directed me here was Jorge Ramiro Monroy of Reina Silver.
Yeah.
His partners with Dr. Peter McGaugh, possibly the top geologist in the world if you're looking for large silver deposits in Mexico, as evidenced by Mag Silver. And he was the one who, Jorge was the one who suggested going to Puerto Vallarta for SilverFest. The beach sparkles here. I'm going to, maybe with this great camera that you got me on that Samsung, can you see the sparkle there at all?
You think there's gold and silver in that sand?
Well, we will be checking. I've already had a sample drying out in my kitchen. Maybe we'll take that poolside. And Rob, even though you can't be here this time, I was thinking Silver Spring Break in Sayulita just has a nice ring to it. That will be one of the options offered in the Arcadia Silver Public offering, which is debuting this week at SilverFest, starting with the pre-party Wednesday night, October 27th, which then leads into the full festivities. It's not really a conference because it's a little bit more festival, fun, getting to meet people, getting introduced to people, getting to actually interact directly with people like you, Rob, because you're going to be manning one of the booths I hear. Is that right?
I will be manning one of the booths. We're going to be doing the barter, I think, on Saturday. So that'll be in the silver bar. So that'd be interesting.
Well, I mean, how cool that you could actually have an economy that would function like it's completely oiled and lubricated, unlike the dollar market, which seems to only work out well for one side of the equation. But that's okay. And Rob, why I'm excited that you'll be joining me. You were on a couple panels, whether you know it or not yet, and we're going to go over that schedule shortly. But it's really been quite an honor watching your progress as you've gone on this journey into a YouTube superstar. Last question before we wrap up, touching on what you mentioned earlier. In all the time that you've been doing this and you've dropped the hammer on a few folks in your day, has there been anything that you would retract later on, or you think like, wow, well, I thought this at the time and I reported this, but I mean, I've found that for the most part, things always end up being wilder and more extremely rigged than even I had imagined. I'm curious, is there anything that, anything along those lines?
You know, I agree with you 100% not. If anything, I'd have been more aggressive. You know, I have an auditor's background and we're taught to be cautious and rely on the facts and data and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I tried to do that. That was my training. But the more we dive into this, Chris, the more it seems just like a wild ass circus. And the stuff that goes on beneath the surface is really goofy. And I get criticized a lot for saying, Rob, you shouldn't talk about manipulation of the market. You can't prove it. And I think there's enough data there to prove it. I was just told that at the New Orleans Investment Conference, a prominent gold and silver analyst with a prominent website came up to me and said, I don't want to talk manipulation in our interview. And I told him, I said, that's fine, but I think you're missing most of what goes on in the gold and silver market. And I said, there's so much data at this point. And from what I've seen going on at the mints, what I've seen going on at the banks, what we've seen going on across the whole supply chain, it would not surprise me if it's even worse manipulation gold and silver than we even know, than we've even talked about with SLV or the COMEX. It could be a lot worse. It would not surprise me if when the truth fully comes out, we look at this and say, oh my God, the scale of this is just ridiculous. And of course, you know, that plays into your book, the big silver short, because that's exactly what you're describing.
Well, I appreciate that, Rob. You had a great influence in that book. Those are the kind of things we'll be discussing this week at SilverFest II. Fortunately, the link right in the description field below, so you can go there, reserve your spot now. Now, it might cost you a couple bucks to do it in person in Sayulita, Mexico, which is right by the Puerto Vallarta airport. Email Yarra, Y-A-R-R-A, at Arcadia Economics for more info on that. Although it's free to attend online, thanks to our incredibly generous sponsors, Rob, many of whom have been on your show, testifying to how I'm fortunate to have most of the highest quality silver mining and exploration companies in the world, in my opinion. And they'll be there supporting us, making this free, helping us to give away as many silver ounces as we can over a 3.5-day party where Rob Kientz will be there. So go click that link in the description field now, get your spot, and Rob, will look forward to seeing you there tomorrow night.
Man, I'm looking forward to it, Chris. I'm going to visit all the sponsors because I looked at the lineup you have so far. It's really, really good. And I think it's now time to buy the miner. So I'm definitely going to be following that this week.
Well, that sounds good to me. And for everybody who just can't wait until then, partly we haven't had a video in a couple of days because I've been wanted to offer a special tribute to silver ahead of these festivities. And also with Brandon so close to overtaking the White House, it seems almost by the hour. So Silver Chris of Arcadia has something special planned for all of my fellow Arcadians tonight, right here on the Arcadia channel, where you can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified. 9 p.m. Eastern, my tribute to silver and some of the true criminal heroes like the Jeffy brothers, like the CFTC, who have given us, Rob, this incredible platform and this mistake to correct. So 9 p.m. Eastern, if you can't wait till tomorrow. And Rob, I'm just going to imagine the look on your face when you see the final version and all the special expose of the silver fraud, and really the coverage also of the heroes like yourself who have stood up against the evil empire, the dark side, the Darth Vader of silver. And it's going to be a special week, hombre.
Man, I'm looking forward to it, and see you guys at SilverFest. We will be there.
All right. Hit that notification and subscription buttons now, and I will see you tonight at 9 Eastern.